Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you surely know that this is my deep dive into an incredible deck called the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light. And it's a very different deck from many of the decks that most of us seem to be drawn to and are learning on and use on a regular basis. This is a deck that is not part of the Golden Dawn tradition. It's not one of the Waite-Smith, the Smith-Waite decks. It's not one of the Thoth decks. It's not even Tarot de Marseille. Yeah, it's a system that is unique, distinct, and based on the continental tarot system, but a little bit different. There's variations, there are changes here. And so I wanted to learn this deck, and so I'm doing this deep dive as a beginning to that process. And just in case you are new here, let me tell you what I am doing here. Every night before I go to bed, I draw a daily draw card. I shuffle my color version of the mass market deck that's readily available. I riffle shuffle, so I don't worry about having to replace it because it's easy to find. And it's inexpensive. So I riffle shuffle it, I pull my daily draw card, thinking of the question, what would I benefit from giving my attention to in the following day? And then I pull the same card from my very out of print, charcoal gray and white deck, which is a deck that I bought because I believe that it was published in the year of my birth, or at least thereabouts. And so I look at those two cards. I notice the differences, I notice the similarities, and then I use a helper deck. If you're not new to my channel, if you've been here for a while, you will recognize this deck. It is the Tarot of the Holy Light by the beautiful Christine Payne-Towler. And I use that in a 3-card draw. The 3 cards signify, 1, the significance of the daily draw card from the Egyptian Tarot for me for the following day, the significance. The second card is the challenge, which could be a positive challenge or a negative challenge. And the third card is the advice. Yeah, 3-card spread, very typical. And so then I go to sleep and I wake up, thank God, the next day, and I live my day. And at the end of the day, I come back and I do a more careful analysis of the cards, and I see how those cards, the meanings, the attributions, the significances of those cards, how they revealed themselves to me during the day, or perhaps I still need to do a little bit more self-inquiry and imagine what those cards might have meant in relation to the day that I've lived. And that's what I'm doing now. And so, friends, I've got the daily draw already set up, so let me show you those cards right now. You see why I say those cards, because I have 2 versions of the same card. Yes, the newer version and the older version. And I'm doing that because I don't want to shuffle my out-of-print deck. I'm a little bit precious with that. So I shuffle my modern one, my mass market, readily available deck, and then I pull the same card from the out-of-print deck and I look at the differences. And there are some slight differences, are there not? Did you notice them? So let me show you those cards again. What do we have here? We have the 5 of Cups, right? And the primary associations of the cards are the same in both. You'll notice that the cups are a little bit different. The size, well, yes, one is color, one's black and white, but the size of the cups is a little bit different. You'll also notice that the stars, the constellation that is drawn on both cards, is slightly different depending on the printing, right? And in this deck, it looks like in these cards, it looks like the number of the stars is actually the same. Oftentimes there are different numbers of stars for the same constellation, but they're placed differently, right? So here we have the 5 of Cups. And what is the 5 of Cups for us in the Egyptian Tarot? Let me get this lined up a little bit better for you. Well, it is the 5 of Cups, which points to the Pisces decadent of Scorpio and its subruler Neptune or Jupiter, from which the mutable aspect of fixed water vital attributes enter our world. So again, this is the Scorpio decadent of, the Pisces decadent of Scorpio. Now, Scorpio has 3 decadents, 3 sets of 10 degrees, and this is the second decadent, which is Pisces decadent of Scorpio, and the planet for Pisces in this deck is Jupiter. I'm sorry, in this deck is Neptune, but for me, it's Jupiter. I go on the 7 visible lights model of planetary attributions for astrology. That's my preference. So I'm going to read primarily with Jupiter beaming its powerful rays of abundance and its being of expansiveness and wealth and good fortune and all of those beneficent attributes of Jupiter through this Pisces decadent of Scorpio, through the house of Scorpio, into our natal charts, into our world, and into the answer to the question that we have posed to the Tarot. And we've also got, because it is the second decadent of the zodiacal sign, there's a word there, the zodiacal sign, we have in its upright version, a, what do we call it? A complement. Yes, a complement. And the complement for this card is Mars in Libra. So we've got all of this information of planets and signs through this one card. We also have a constellation. Now, the constellation here is Ara. That's Ara. Let me show you the constellation of Ara right now. The constellation of Ara. It's a constellation up in the sky. And I'm just going to give you a nugget of information about the constellation of Ara. And in Greek mythology, Ara was identified as the altar in which the Olympian gods gathered to make their alliances, to form their alliances before waging war on the Titans and eventually defeating them. Now, recognizing that the Titans are actually their ancestors, right? These Olympian gods were born of the Titans, and yet they decided to take control. They gathered at the altar of Ara before they waged war and defeated the Titans. So, Ara is an altar. It's a sacred space, and one in which war was planned and the war, a successful war, was launched, but it is the altar of gathering and joining and unions. Now, what they did with that union, that's another thing entirely, but it is an altar of gathering and unions. And again, here we have either Neptune or Jupiter radiating its light through Pisces of Scorpio. So we've got the severity of Scorpio is there, but somewhat softened and expanded with both Pisces and the light of Jupiter. And Jupiter takes on perhaps the focus of Pisces, of Scorpio, as it shines through. And we've also got Mars in Libra. Now, the Libra is the domicile of Venus, though. Yes, Venus, right? Venus is Mars's partner. So Mars is in the home of his partner Venus on the dry way up to of ascension, the more mature way of ascension. So we've got a more mature Mars here in the house of his partner Venus, the balanced one, the one of beauty and joining of pairings, of balancing pairings, of justice, of rightness, of good. So, what does this all mean? Well, according to the guidebooks, this is a card of good fortune in love. The Jupiter fortune is radiating into the idea of love here, with perhaps with the the complement of Mars and Libra, perhaps. We have an idea of deep-seated attachment, steadfast affections, the more Scorpion emotions there, the steadfast affections, and fidelity in love, a Scorpio kind of thing. We have responsibility. We have hold the emotions in check, but still benefiting from hidden influences. Yeah, that beneficent Jupiterian energy radiating through, those qualities radiating through. This card reminds us to check our sensitivity with sound judgment. Yeah, we got the Libran thing of judgment here. And emotional responsibility is attracts here. Emotional responsibility attracts. Rather than the flighty kind of emotional responses that some of us have. Yeah, emotional responsibility is attractive. Realization of a dream could be part of this. Expand fixed ideas. That Jupiter can expand through the fixedness of Scorpio. Because, again, Jupiter is radiating through the Pisces decadent of Scorpio, which is the mutable aspect of fixed water. So those fixed emotions can be expanded here through the help of Jupiter. And there's an idea of rewarding psychic experience. Yeah, this Pisces is a very psychic sign. Scorpio's got a little bit of that too, right? So a lot of really good stuff here. Ideas of responsibility, of being focused, perhaps, of being stable, but still expansive with Jupiter. Our affections should be steadfast, not wavering. Yeah, the mutable aspect of fixed water. So it's fixed, but we still got some wiggle room, maybe. So those are the ideas that were to color my day today, with the idea of joining together at the sacred. So, where did I get that? I got that from Ara, the constellation Ratchir in this card, Ratchir. So, then I asked for some help. I asked for some help with from the Tarot of the Holy Light. And I got 3 cards. Let me show you those cards right now. You just saw, in order from left to right, the significance of the 5 of Cups was the 8 of Swords reversed. So that was helping me to unpack the 5 of Cups. Yeah, the 8 of Swords reversed. And then the challenge card was the Empress. And then the advice was the Hierophant. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Particularly as we've got both Venus and Mars, Venus, yes, and also Mars in a sideways entering way in the second 2 cards of this 3-card spread. And we'll get to that in a moment. But let's begin with the 8 of Swords. Here it is in reverse, and here it is upright. It's a beautiful card. We've got the lattice work of 8 swords. Do you notice that one seems to have pierced a leaf and is dripping a little bit of blood? I think it's on this side. Let me check. Nope, it's on this side. It's on this side. Do you see that? We've got the sun up there. We've got the moon up there. We've got flowers growing up the sides. A beautiful card. So upright, the 8 of Swords is the Aquarius decadent of Gemini. Now, the Aquarius decadent of Gemini and its sub-ruler Saturn, from which the fixed aspect of mutable air vital attributes enter our world and enter our lives and enter the answer to the questions that we're posing in this spread. And that question that I was posing was, what does this mean for me for today? So again, we've got Aquarius decadent of Gemini, which is the third decadent. So rather than a complement, we have either an exaltation or a fall. And because this card is in reverse, it's a fall. And the fall is Mercury in Pisces. Pisces again, right? Pisces. Welcome to the Pisces land again. Did I tell you? I've told you in the past, but maybe you don't remember, or maybe you haven't seen it. But my ascending sign is Scorpio. My moon sign is Pisces. So Pisces in Scorpio was very significant for me in that first card, in the Five of Cups. And here we have Mercury in Pisces again, in the fall. Not in the autumn kind of fall, but the fall as opposed to the exaltation of this card, the Eight of Swords. And we saw the Eight of Swords upright just yesterday. So when this first came out reversed, I thought, oh no. I thought, ooh, so I didn't do something right. I did something wrong. But maybe that's not what it was telling me. It hadn't turned reversed because I effed up, as one might say. But there are other reasons for this to have come up reversed. So, what does it mean? What does Saturn beaming through the Aquarius domicile of Gemini tell us? And what does Mercury knocking itself around Pisces tell us in the fall? And again, not the fall as in autumn, but the fall as in the opposite of exaltation. So the Eight of Swords here, in reverse, points to the challenge to manage our emotions. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, it's there. It's there in the Five of Cups. The challenge to manage our emotions. Not to ignore them, not to push them aside, not to battle our way through them, but to manage them. Because we have the potential of perhaps melting into a subjective puddle with the Eight of Swords reversed. Yeah, things could get too, I don't want to say stressful, although stressful is possible, but things get so tight, so tense, that perhaps we have the possibility of going Mercury in Pisces. Yeah, Mercury, bing, 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 all over the place. And Pisces, this big, huge vat of water. So it just goes bouncing around in this wobbly pool of emotions. That's a potential here in the fall. And so this card in reverse is saying, manage your emotions. You can take care of yourself and your emotions all at the same time. It's reminding us that there is a challenge in this card. Yeah? The challenge is that this thing that could be a test, a challenge, could draw a little bit of blood. We could get a little bit wounded, and hopefully it'll just be a surface wound and we can move on. And if we keep ourselves grounded, as they say, and uplifted in the air of the suit, in the mind of the suit, in the Aquarius of Gemini, with the cutting of things of Saturn, right? So this card is also reminding us that there is a star. You see the star? The star which was below in the upright version is now above. And we have the reminder that we have a guiding star here for us, even in a trying situation. Remember that this star could point us the way we want to go. And so we don't give up. Now, it's possible. What we want to do is possible. Something else that is possible here is that mind manipulation in crowds, in crowds and out crowds. Who's in, who's out. Yeah, the kind of Gemini split. The cutting of things with Saturn can split into ins and outs too here. Not only the cutting off of boundaries, but things can also get cut in half with both Mercury here in Pisces, but also with Saturn slicing through Gemini. So that's interesting. This relates quite well, I think, to the Five of Cups as good, but keep an eye out for things that could happen. And so what is not the advice, the challenge? And I think here we have a challenge of potential. Yeah, the Empress here. You see this beautiful Empress card. You have the female presenting figure with breasts for days all around the sacral chakra and the solar plexus chakra. Almost going, and the root chakra there is just full of of powerful, I should say, powerful horse energy, equine energy, willpower, raging, bursting forth from the root chakra. That's what I want to say. And the association for this card is Venus. Venus is radiating into our lives. And what are the domiciles of Venus? One is Taurus, yeah, very earthy, creative, sometimes slow-moving, but moving at one's own pace, Taurin, and also Libra, which we just had earlier on in the Mars in Libra for the Five of Cups. So Venus is happy there, and there perhaps Venus is hooking up in the more mature version of Venus, is hooking up with her partner in Mars, in her house. And here, Venus is attraction, right? Harmony, magnetism, and receptive charisma, rather than the go out and get their charisma. It's the charisma of the receptive and the come hither. I don't want to say come get me, because that gives us a very different flavor, right? But come hither. Look at how attractive I am and be attracted. So it's also the image or the reminder of Sophia as the Great Mother, granting us the spark of divinity. Us in these human forms are the eternal nature that we are has entered the physical universe and is co-creating these physical forms with which we are interacting with the physical universe. And it's that connection was allowed, permitted, opened by the Great Mother Sophia. So which is something that we also remember as Christians in the Pentecost, right? The Pentecost is when we recall the time when the fire of Spirit entered into us once again. The Pentecost. Pentecost is actually the 50 days after the death of Christ, but we received the Holy Spirit, which is another form of Sophia in the divine trinity of the Christian ideology. Yeah, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit is basically Sophia. So we've got the Pentecost here as well, if we want to put it into a more Christian format in which, frankly, continental Tarot and modern Tarot is based on Christian culture. We also get the idea that life springs to abundant diversity under the gaze of beauty. Venus, as the representative of the manifestation of beauty, gazes into this earthly plane and abundance springs forth from that. Now, Venus's gaze brings life to the planet. Sophia's gaze brings life to the planet. And this card reminds us that every being is a thread that weaves itself through the intricate web of living creation under this Empress's tutelage. Yeah, it's a little different from the fates weaving the web, which is more of an active thing. This is the allowing of the creation to weave itself together with the supervision of Sophia, with the supervision of the Great Mother, with the supervision of the Divine Empress. Yes, that's her name, the Empress. So we've got that creativity, the harmony, attraction, magnetism, charisma, the inflowing of spirit of the Numen into physical form, into human form, but into physical form. And we see this beautiful, beautiful being blessing creation, right? With one foot on the moon in a very Marian kind of pose. Talk about Christianity again. Yeah, Mary often is drawn with her foot on the moon and another foot perhaps on a snake, or perhaps the snake is under the moon, under her foot. So we got all of this divine feminine energy, and these divine femininity. Wow, English. The divine femininity is pouring forth in abundance through this card. And interestingly, the advice could be seen as perhaps a mate to the Empress. Now, usually we think of the Emperor and the Empress as mates, but we could also think of the Hierophant and the Empress as mates. Our secret, I usually think of the Hierophant and the High Priestess as mates, but here there's something else that is possible. So the tarot is never that rigid, Well, so this is the Empress, and so her mate has to be the Emperor, and there's no other possibility that doesn't happen in tarot. There are so many different layers and levels that match each other up, given the reading, given the situation, given the question that's being asked, and given the focus that what kind of meaning we're drawing from each of the cards. And so we just drew that Venusian, those Venusian aspects of the Empress so strongly. And here we have I'm sorry, not the Emperor. What did I just tell you? Well, we have the Hierophant, this powerful, powerful Hierophant card, and very different from the Hierophant cards that many of us are used to, who looks like something, either a bishop or a pope with acolytes and a crozier, or perhaps a three-tiered cross on one side. This Hierophant is very, very different. Now we got this being floating up in the sky, feet on planets, hands holding the sun and the moon. Well, pointing to the sun and the moon, I should say. We've got a pair of partners sitting on the ground below, who could be a loving pair, a partnered pair, or perhaps just a pair of associated students for the Hierophant. There's a lot of color, a lot of symbolism in this card that is beautiful and fascinating. And the association here for the Hierophant is Aries. So the Hierophant points to Aries, which is the domicile of Mars, from which the cardinal fire attributes enter our world. Now, Aries is a cardinal sign, the cardinal fire sign, and Mars is entering our world and can enter our world through Aries in this card. And who is Mars? None other than the partner of the Empress, or the partner of Venus. And because of that, because we've got those potential matings happening between the Empress and the Hierophant, I think that is a very interesting grouping, pairing here in this three-card reading, three-card draw. So who is the Hierophant? Well, he's number 5, right? And fives, what are fives? Fives are, the opposable thumb. Fives are willpower. Fives are the breaking forth from the stability of the 4. The bursting forth with new, renewed vigor. And grasping things, and holding things, and willing things. And it's the fives of will and magic. Because we also think of the pentagram, right, as being a magical symbol, or a symbol of magic. So we've got that there. the will of magic in the Hierophant. So who is this Hierophant? This Hierophant is a teacher, the head of a spiritual university, a spiritual teaching facility. He's the transmitter of mysteries to those who prove themselves worthy. And we might get just a little bit more of that need for worthiness in the Hierophant than we might have in the High Priestess, at least for me. I think the High Priestess is much more allowing and much more welcoming than many tarot readers read her. And I think the Hierophant is perhaps a little bit more conservative, a little bit more reticent to open the doors to whoever will come, if that makes sense. This Hierophant also discerns who has the potential to become an initiate. A kind of Aryan thing to do. Not Aryan like Aryan race, but Aries, the ram, who runs out and gets things done and makes decisions, and yes, you're worthy and you can come with me, and no, you're not worthy, and no, you can't come with me. It doesn't do a lot of deep pondering and, I don't know, maybe you do have potential. Let's talk, right? That's not Aries. He, she, they train others to pierce the veil and develop their skills. Now, the High Priestess will open. The Hierophant trains. And though he is Mars, the Hierophant as Mars, and this Mars is in Aries, he supports the fresh spring of the creative meaning. I'm sorry. Maybe it's my somewhat stuffed up nose that's making the words come out a little bit strange. So we've got Mars in Aries, right? So Mars here in the Hierophant. Boy, it's just not coming out of my head. What I'm trying to say is this Hierophant has Martian energy in Aries. Yes. However, this Hierophant also is supporting the bond of both Mars and Venus. That's what I've been trying to say for so long. Yeah, this Hierophant is supporting the bond of both Mars and Venus in both the spring, vigor, youthfulness of Taurus and Aries, but also in the more on the wet path, descending path, but also in the more mature, the drier path of fall in both Libra and Scorpio. So the Hierophant is supporting both of those meetings of Venus and Mars. And I think perhaps in this reading, perhaps the more mature autumn interaction of Venus and Mars is the one that is more significant to me in this day, with the Five of Cups. Now, the meeting of more mature adults, one of balance and relationship with Venus, and the other of emotion. Now, Mars in Scorpio is the Mars in a watery environment, a fixed environment, a deep environment, a psychic environment of the more male attributes. So we have the water and the air, yes, the water and the air of Scorpio and Venus joining together with Mars and more mature Mars and more mature Virgo. More mature Mars and more... See, I do that all the time. Virgo, Venus are just the same to me, and they're not. So the more mature Mars and the more mature Venus are joined in the dry way of mercy, of ascension. And why is that important to me today? Let me tell you my day. Well, at the beginning of the day, a very interesting day, I had breakfast, finished up packing. You can see I'm not in my dormitory style, apartment style dormitory. Gosh, dang it. My apartment style dormitory in the winter camp. I've left the winter camp, and maybe that's what's happened to my brain. But so yes, I am back in my apartment. And because I'm back in my apartment, the setup is different and things look different, clearly. But today, I finished up packing, got everything into the car, went up to the closing ceremony. I gave a speech at the closing ceremony on behalf of all the teachers, which was good. I was a little nervous, and one of my friends pointed that out to me, that I looked a little bit nervous, but I did a good job. And so it was good. It was short. It was concise. All well done. Then we got into the car. The driver, my friend who was my roommate, the driver, myself, and a third person who was a co-worker from my university here in South Korea. And we drove back from Gangwon-do to Cheonan, if that means anything to you. It's about a 4-hour drive. And during that drive, the co-worker who I did not room with was, I wouldn't say that he was negative. However, there is a baseline negative, a baseline attitude that he has that the driver friend of mine takes as being negative. And I would call it more defensive than negative, if that difference means anything to you. He sees other people getting advantages that he doesn't get, which is not surprising, as he is a person of color. He's not fully black. He's not fully white. He's of mixed race, but he reads for a lot of people as black, and so he has the racism. I mean, he's from the United States, so there's the racism that he is part of his lived experience, and so he does compare himself both consciously and unconsciously to other people who he think may be more privileged than him, and frankly are more privileged than him in most circumstances. And so I understand that, although he sometimes leans into it a little bit too hard, too often. So I also understand where my the driver friend of mine, who is of Korean descent from Russia, and so he's got a little bit of his own racism that he has experienced. So I mean, so I'm here, the white guy, sitting in the car, and my Korean friend gets irritated by the attitude of my friend who is our co-worker from the university. But he's a friend of the driver as well. I'm not saying that they're enemies or anything. They're friends, but a tense friendship, and the tension was strong on the way back. We were talking about the volunteer work that we were doing at the library, and also some of the paid work that we get to do at the library. And the friend at the back was saying, well, I don't know if I'm going to volunteer at the library anymore because I don't see that I'm getting as many opportunities there as you are getting. And then my friend driving said, oh, really? Well, you know, most of the opportunities that I'm getting there, I've made for myself. And my friend in the back said, oh, well, you're talking about all these things. How much are you getting paid for this? And the other friend said, well, I'm not getting paid for that. And they said, well, you got a budget for that. And my other friend said, yes, I got a budget for books, for materials. And he said, well, why aren't you getting paid? Well, it's because I'm not doing it for the money. And I think that was the kind of conversation that happened for a lot of the trip from Gangwon-do to here, for a lot of that 3 to 4 hour trip. And so I was in the middle of that, understanding most sides. And then on the other hand, my Korean-Russian friend, who's driving the car, was talking about another black employee of our university and her privilege, because she comes from a certain class of educated people in the United States who has apparently had some kind of an event in her life that has caused her to leave the United States and leave her job and leave her family and come to work here in Korea. And so she's got a little bit of that, and she's also got the expectations of things that she's had in the past, and so she's a little demanding. And also, being a black woman in the United States, she probably also learned that she had to be demanding in order to get what she wanted. And she takes it to a little bit of an extreme, perhaps because of the privilege that she did experience in her past, being having a jurisprudence a degree and have worked for a law firm. And I mean, she's got an interesting cast of potential. And so when she comes here and says, well, somebody should clean my office and somebody should fix the supplies and somebody should, my Korean-Russian friend gets a little bit pissed off at that. And so he was expressing that in the car. And he said, just off, she's so unhappy, she should go back where she came from. Now, saying that of a black woman from the United States is not the smartest thing to do. It's a little bit racist, right? We all know, oh, well, those of us from the United States know that. Yeah, the go back where you came from trope is still alive and strong in the United States. But my Russian Korean friend doesn't know that. Can't really know that, can't really understand it. And yet my half black, half white friend in the back seat, because that's where he's most comfortable. He gets a little nauseous in the passenger seat. In the back seat, start saying, you know, you really shouldn't say that about, and then my other friend, the Asian Russian, is saying, well, I don't care. If you think it's racist or not, I don't care. I think she should be treated like a queen. She should go back where she's treated like a queen. And it's like, oh man, this is just too much. And so, but what I did, or what I didn't do, was I didn't get engaged in that. And I tried to deflect conversation where I could, tried to, when there was a pause, try to change conversation to something a little less sensitive to either of them. And I did a good job of that sometimes and a less good job of it sometimes, and sometimes, I don't know. So I think that's what, a part of that was what this 5 of Cups, along with the 8 of Swords reversed, was pointing to. By keeping my emotional stability, that there was potential for blood being drawn. Some pain has been suffered, physical pain has been suffered by me, just in case you wanted to know. Really weird thing. When we got to the city we live in and we were dropping off our half black, half white co-worker, his name is Ashanti, and we were dropping Ashanti off. Suddenly, this shoulder here, ow, well, there it goes, started giving me pain when I tried to pull things. And I didn't, it wasn't like I pulled something heavy and I popped something out, or one of those kinds of situations. It was one where I reached and grabbed hold of something, and before I could really even use any pressure, there was this weird pain that shot through there. And it's loosened up a lot, but still, when I move it in a certain way, it still hurts. Of course, it hasn't even been more than 5 hours, I would imagine. So it's probably something of nerves. It could have been something from being tense in the car. I don't know, but some pain has been felt. It wasn't a bloody kind of pain. It wasn't a prick through the skin, but there is some pain that I carry from that car ride here back home. Fortunately, when I got here to my home, my friend who was driving, his name is Maxim, the Korean Russian, he took my bags out of my car and put them up on the steps so that I could roll the rest of the way into the apartment. And he helped me a lot. He's helpful. He's very, very helpful. And Ashanti, the other man, they're both wonderful men. They're both wonderful men. As are we all wonderful human beings, right? And sometimes we have our less than positive aspects, and their two less than positive aspects clash whenever they appear before each other. They get a little bit towards each other. And still they're kind of friends. It's a very strange thing. But so there's that. There's that Eight of Swords thing. Yeah? My needing to be emotionally grounded, centered for the betterment of all. And then after I got home, I texted both of my friends and thanked them for, one for the ride, for being my roommate, one for sharing the experience of winter camp with me. And, you know, communications are good. Mutual admiration society, all of that is wonderful. I don't know if I saw much creativity there, but maybe my speech at the closing ceremony was kind of a creative event, a little bit, of thanking everyone from the administration to the people who supported us clearing the snow off of the paths, to the TAs and the people who assisted us in and out of the classroom, and then the students, praising them for their growth and through difficult times. Maybe there was some of that. Maybe I was... Have I done the Empress and the Hierophant today? I'm not quite sure. I can really see the Five of Cups and the Eight of Swords revealing themselves to me today. Have I embodied spirit in the natural creative blessings of Sophia, the Great Mother? I'm not sure. Have I merged Venus and Mars? Perhaps. Balance and emotion together in Scorpio and Libra? Perhaps. Perhaps. And as this is a daily reading, perhaps I'm looking for something deeper than this kind of a reading really is talking about, because again, this isn't a life path reading. This is a how's your day going tomorrow kind of reading, right? And that is helping me unpack the Five of Cups being an emotional thing of expanded expansions of fixed ideas, and that I think happened. Holding emotions in check with the balance of the male and female, the Mars and Venus, creativity and divine connection of the Hierophant, the teacher, maybe a little bit, maybe. Good fortune in love, the loving relationship of co-workers. There was some good fortune when all was said and done. When we separated, there was some good fortune after all of that. I did get a couple of good ideas. In fact, I got one good idea that I might or might not follow through on, depending on how energetic I'm feeling in the next semester. The friend who was driving the car that we were in today has been running a book club, which is one of the things that the other friend, Ashanti, was saying, well, how much are you getting paid for that book club? And he's not getting paid for that book club. So I might suggest that I volunteer to do a different kind of thing in maybe a library close to me. There is potential for that. One of the employees at the library that I volunteer for has moved to the library near my apartment. So maybe I could do not a book club, but I don't want to say a drama club, but instead of reading books, we would read plays. And we would first read the play in preparation, and then we'd come together and we would read the play aloud for each other and see how it works not on its feet, but how it works aloud. Now, I think that could be an interesting thing to do, to practice English, to practice emotion in a foreign language, to practice communicating with other people's words, but communicating in the broader cultural, emotional, cultural context of drama could be of benefit for them and very interesting for me, because that's where I was raised in the United States. I was raised as a person in theater through high school and university and beyond until I became an English teacher. So that might be interesting. And maybe that's the creative merging of Sophia and the Hierophant and Mars and Venus. Maybe that seed might sprout something. Maybe. We'll see. Does that make sense? Am I communicating now? I hope so. Because for this video, I really feel like words are not my friends right now. They come out, I'm thinking them one way and they're coming out very different. So I hope I'm making sense. Let me know in the comments below. Am I making sense? If you are still here, thank you very much. And hit that thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you stayed the course and you got something out of it, and other people might get something out of it too. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and hit the alarm bell so you get notifications of when I upload videos. I'm doing one a day until the new moon in February. Not too far off. We're over the halfway mark in this deep dive series. Also, comment below. I would really love to hear from you. And if you want to get these decks, if you want the color version of the Egyptian Tarot, there's a link to Amazon in the description box below. You can get it very easily. If you want to get this amazing deck by Christine Payne-Towler, there's a link in the description box below, and you can get that fairly easily too. Get the guidebook, at least one of the two guidebooks, if not both, to go with it, because it will help you learn so much. It really will. It has expanded my abilities as a reader immeasurably. So I highly recommend it. And if you want a reading from me, my email address is below. The hanged man in the moon @gmail.com. Shoot me an email and we'll get you a reading. So friends, here we are. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.